Good evening and welcome to Just the News. We have a lot of interesting developments today, starting, of course, with the COVID numbers. Delhi has now put itself on a yellow alert. Now, this yellow alert is part of a COVID graded action response plan. It begins with immediate effect. So basically, yellow alert is issued in the city whenever there is a positivity rate of 0.5% for 2 consecutive days, or cases cross 1,500 in 1 week, or the average occupancy of oxygen beds remains at 500 for the whole week. Now, what we've had is 0.55% of positivity for 2 straight days. According to the new rules in Delhi, night curfew between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., private offices which are non-essential, and you can look at the rules specifically for what is essential and not, will function only with 50% capacity, only 20 people at weddings and funerals. Weddings can only happen either at home or in the court offices. Schools and colleges will stay shut, and you can refer to our posts on Instagram for more details of those rules in Delhi. Basically, malls and shops will open on odd and even basis. Cinemas, multiplexes and gyms will be closed. Restaurants and bars will be closed at 10 p.m. and operate at 50% capacity. The central government has issued additional guidelines for the vaccination drive of the 15 to 18-year-old age bracket, and the booster shots for the 60 plus and the frontline workers and the healthcare workers comes into effect on the 3rd of January, like I told you. Children are now going to be given Bharat Biotech's Covaxin. For now, they can register on the CoWIN portal starting the 1st of January using either their school IDs or their Aadhaar cards. Citizens above the age of 60 with comorbidities will be prioritized based on the completion of 9 months from their second dose. They will be able to book a vaccine slot after submitting their comorbidity certificate on the CoWIN portal. We haven't been told specifically whether they will receive Covaxin or Covishield or any other type of vaccine. Booster doses for 60 plus frontline workers and healthcare workers will start on the 10th of January. In the meantime, India's Omicron tally is now at 653. Maximum cases reported in Maharashtra, then Delhi. India reported altogether 6,358 new cases, 293 deaths in the last 24 hours. The Centre for Drugs Standard Control Organization has granted emergency use approval to Serum Institute's Covovax and Biological E's Corbevax COVID vaccines. Now, Cobevax is India's first indigenously developed protein subunit vaccine against the virus. It's also approved an antiviral drug called, bear with me here, Molnupiravir, to be used in emergency, made by 13 companies in India. This is the first oral treatment drug for COVID. It's also been approved by other countries like UK and US. Interestingly, it was initially developed to treat influenza and is now being repurposed to treat COVID. Now, while Delhi has issued a yellow alert on COVID, thousands of resident doctors are in police custody. These are doctors from medical college associated hospitals who've withdrawn all services and taken to the streets, demanding NEET and PG counselling be conducted at the earliest. On Monday evening, resident doctors of the state and central government hospitals were detained by the Delhi police as they were protesting. The Federation of Resident Doctors Association claimed that there was police brutality and the doctors who were peacefully protesting were brutally thrashed, dragged and beaten by the Delhi police. The Delhi police subsequently lodged an FIR against the doctors, charging them with rioting, causing obstruction of duty of the police personnel and damaging public property. Calling it a black day in the history of the medical fraternity, the Federation of Resident Doctors Association said there will be a complete shutdown of all healthcare institutions starting today onwards. We strongly condemn this brutality and demand immediate release of our representatives and resident doctors, they said. So what is this problem that they're protesting against? Now, effectively, they have a common entrance examination for their PG courses, and they have to receive counselling and placement and admission for those common entrance examinations. It was scheduled to happen earlier this year. It got postponed a couple of times, first due to the second wave of COVID, and then because the central government in July decided to actually issue 10% reservations to students of economically weaker sections of society. And it gave that economically weaker section of society an income limit of 8 lakh per annum. This was questioned in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court then asked the central government to submit a report, as to how it arrived at that value of 8 lakhs per annum. The centre said it will form a committee and submit the report on the 25th of November. Now, all of this caused a delay in the PG admissions. The doctors want the process to be expedited so that they can receive their admissions. They don't waste time. And the lack of admissions also putting a lot of pressure on the system right now. They've been protesting since the 27th of November. After several meetings with the health minister, there's been no breakthrough. According to ANI today, though, representatives of the Federation of Resident Doctors met Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia to discuss their demands to expedite the NEET postgraduate counselling and to seek an apology for the police action against them. The health minister after the meeting said, and I quote, "We are not able to do counselling because the matter is sub judice before the Supreme Court. The hearing will take place on the 6th of January. I hope the NEET PG counselling will start soon," end quote. He also urged the protesting doctors to call off their strike in public interest and added that if there was misbehavior from the side of the police, then he apologizes on their behalf, end quote. The Delhi police has issued a clarification regarding the alleged brutality on resident doctors during the protest in the national capital. It said that there was no lathi charge on the protesters. In the press briefing, an additional commissioner, Suman Goyal, said a few policemen were, on the other hand, injured. Some of the department vehicles were damaged. Goyal said, and I quote, "The ADGP and the Director General of Health Services, Nirman Bhavan, came to discuss the demands, but the ITO junction remained blocked. Protesting doctors again wanted to march towards the Supreme Court. As a preventive measure, some doctors were detained." He said there was no mishandling and no use of force. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal wrote to the Prime Minister demanding an expedited NEET postgraduate counselling, and he condemned the police brutality. In other news, a circular for counselling sessions in the JNU University on sexual harassment has been criticised by both students and teachers because it trivialized, incidentally, the issue of sexual harassment. Now, the invite, which is available on the university website, has a header titled "Why Counselling Sessions Are Required." In one of the points it says, and I quote, "Boys generally cross, sometimes advertently, sometimes inadvertently, the thin line between friendships bantering and sexual harassment. Girls are supposed to know where to draw the tangible line between them and their male friends to avoid such harassment." This obviously puts the blame and the onus of sexual harassment on the victim. Students and teachers have criticized this circular. Also, they have said it's trivializing sexual harassment because it's using the word banter and putting the onus on women. According to the Indian Express, the ICC presiding officer, Poonam Kumari, has said it's important for both boys and girls to know where the line has to be drawn. Girls need to say before the matter goes out of hand whether they don't like being touched or hugged. End quote. The Home Ministry has informed the government that it has barred the Missionaries of Charity, which is the charitable organization started by Mother Teresa, from accessing any foreign donations because apparently it does not meet the eligibility conditions under the FCRA 2010 guidelines. While considering the renewal application placed by the charity organization, some adverse inputs were noticed according to the central government. In a statement, the Home Ministry has said, and I quote, "In consideration with these inputs on record, the renewal application has not been approved. The FCRA registration of the Missionaries of Charity is valid up to the 31st of December this year." The MHA did not freeze the accounts. SBI India has informed that Missionaries of Charity itself requested SBI to freeze its accounts. The ministry statement comes after West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee alleged that the bank accounts were frozen by the central government. The organization, the Missionaries of Charity, have said in a statement that the FCRA application has not been approved and therefore it has asked its centers not to use any of the money in those accounts until the matter is resolved. Quick look at news coming in from across the world right now. At least 20 people have been killed and 35,000 people have been forced to leave their homes because of floods in northeast Brazil. A total of 72 municipalities in Brazil's Bahia is in a state of emergency. The state governor has said that they're living in the worst disaster that has ever occurred in the history of that region. Rescue operations are underway. A volcano eruption has spewed ashes for 3 months in the island of Palma. It's officially now been declared over. According to BBC, since the eruption on the 19th of September, the volcano has destroyed more than 3,000 properties, hundreds of acres of farmlands on the Canary Island. More than 7,000 people were forced to leave their homes. The Canary Islands Regional Security Chief, Julio Perez, has said in a press conference, "What I want to say today can be said in 4 words. The eruption is over." And a piece of positive news before we leave you for today. A second-year engineering student from Andhra Pradesh, Janvi Dangeti, has become the only Indian to undergo the International Air and Space Program at NASA's Launch Operations Kennedy Space Center, Alabama, in the US. TUI reported that during the training program, she was appointed mission director at Team Kennedy, where she led a group of 16 people from several countries. The program offered students rigorous training in zero gravity, underwater rocket launches, aircraft handling, and multi-access training, among others. We're extremely proud of Janvi. That brings us to the end of the news today. Thank you so much for listening. On our YouTube page, we have a conversation with resident doctors on why they're striking and what they need from us. Remember, during the 2 waves of COVID, it was the resident doctors in our hospitals that did the bulk of the work in the COVID wards and in the COVID ICUs. They deserve our support right now. Do take a look at those conversations. Also, a conversation with Prashant Bhushan on the letter that senior advocates have written to the Chief Justice of India demanding suo motu action on hate speech. That's also on our YouTube page. Take a look at it. Thank you so much. Good night.